Imagine having access to a tribe of mentors, experts in the biggest questions in tech. This is Making Revenue Tick.
Hello and welcome to Making Revenue Tick. I'm delighted because this is actually one of the first times that we've had a client of ours on the podcast, and one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with, which is Mr. Steve Knight. Steve, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, very well. So what a lovely introduction.
Well, it's genuine, we had such a fun time working together on that massive scale up at Builder. I think when you guys were back in sort of Series C kind of time. And I loved how hands-on you were and how you got the team rallied and how we hired some amazing people. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit of detail. But when we were having a conversation about, look, we've got to do a podcast together, there was a topic that came up, which is this really sticky and challenging and messy problem that every founder has, which is, hey, we are a £1 or £2 million business. We want to get to 10, but we don't know how. Why is that topic one that you love to talk about?
It really is it's an interesting one, which I've learned over the last sort of probably 10, 15 years. And I've been a founder myself, which was it worked, it went well, and then it didn't go so well. And I think when it doesn't go so well, that's the interesting bit, that you've really got some golden nuggets in there to be able to utilize that in the next best thing. So I love the sort of entrepreneurial flair of somebody growing a business from 0 revenue to 1 million. I think that's the massive respect to that. You know, whether it's a really small business or it's a small business that could grow into a huge one. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to see, witness, and experience that people like Delivery Hero, Just Eat, all that, and also through my own business as well. And I think that the challenge that a lot of founders face is that when you're first sort of starting out, you're trying to basically get a product or your service, take it to market and seeing where it sticks. And you're going probably 1,000 miles an hour in 4,000 different directions. And that works from 0 to 1 million sort of revenue. That really works because you're just trying to find out, and you'll get some traction. You'll get loads of rejection, but you'll get some traction. And then when you do get traction, you go, okay, how do we actually harness this and sort of reduce this down and make it more efficient and make it grow in a more strategic way? And I've been fortunate to be able to step into different types of businesses, whether they're software businesses, online businesses, logistic businesses, pretty much software at a core, where it's basically trying to solve a problem. And it's trying to solve a problem that's trying to go into a market that basically is new to market. It's going to change a habit of a person, whether it's ordering a takeaway from phone to online, or whether it's going to be instead of you collecting your takeaway, or you actually get it delivered and it's hot and it's ready and it's in the right time that you want it. Or indeed, it's somebody trying to sell something online. So if you're you're doing a bit of a side hustle and you're on Etsy, for example, and you want to then you get massive amount of success, but then you want to turn it into a business. Those things are still the same. That the DNA of that person is still the same. But it's like, how do we actually make sure that we've got a business that can grow, it's efficient, and it's got enough innovation in there to basically be current and maintain it? And those are the three sort of strategic pillars that I've found over the last definitely 15 years of going into businesses, to be able to see actually and put a blueprint in place to basically say, right, okay, let's have a look at the business. Let's see how it works, because anyone can get with a great product can get to 1 million, right? Anyone can do that, right? With hard work, tenacity, and taking some risks. We're going from 1 to 2 or 2 to 5 or 5 to 10 million sort of recurring revenue, and being able to build on that and invest your money back into the business. That's a massive challenge in itself, because one, you've got the mindset piece, right? Because you can't go, right, well, you can't think about shareholder value, profit, everything else. You've got to think about, right, well, if I make another million, I've got to invest probably 20% of that to get to the next stage. And don't see it as pure profit, seeing it as your startup, build up, scale up phase.
Yeah.
Really be able to reinvest that money into your processes, into your people, and trust the people that you get as well. So I've seen it really work really well. And I've gone into business where you go, how the hell did you get here? And then I've also seen businesses where this is a really good, solid business. But how do we actually move that on? How do we actually define and make the success that you've had where you've sold into 4 different sectors? Where's the best sector you've sold into? Where is the best sort of conversion rates? And where is the business best to perform in to secure additional revenue and grow that? And the word is consistently, just consistently repeating. And I think that's the biggest challenge that I've seen and delivered. And it comes, I hate to say it, as you get older, you get more experienced and you see it.
Yeah.
And it's all about keeping it simple and being honest with yourselves within the organization and challenging everybody as well in a positive way, but making sure. And I think that one of the things that is the defining thing of seeing a business grow, it's about really maximizing the cultural fit within that business straight away. Because if that culture should never change, I've seen businesses gone from 0 to 1 or 1 to 5 and the culture stays the same. You go from 5 to 10, and all of a sudden you start talking a little bit more corporate, or you
Yeah.
start thinking about how we're doing things, and that dissolves the focus on what you're trying to achieve. So I think there's a real sort of culture analysis of what you want to achieve. And one of the best cultures I ever worked in was in Just Eat, where it was entrepreneurial, it was risk taking, it was you can make a mistake, you can move on, you can drive things forward, and you're accountable. But that environment, and if you ask anybody in the sort of hysterical sort of data of Just Eat and people who used to work there, quite a lot of those people now are actually entrepreneurs themselves, and they've
Yeah.
built the next business, and they're moving on, and they did that with the DNA that was actually instilled at Just Eat at that time, and that was, you got to go for it. We go for it. The ambition is $1 billion in terms
Yeah.
of brand value. We're going to get there. We're going to do it. We're going to burn some cash. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to move through this. And now look at it, a huge IPO in 2014, mergers, acquisitions, everything else around there. And a lot of the people that were there back in, say, 10, 15 years ago, even before, and this ages me, even before Just Eat had an actual app, it was just a web-based ordering. And you do that. And then you look at the sort of now the innovation piece of AI and how that's moving things forward. Right. There are dinosaurs within the sort of businesses like me that you go, well, I actually was working before even mobile phones were taking place, but you
Sure.
have to evolve as a person to move that. So mobile phones to apps, to webs, to AI, what is the next version of it? And I think that's the real sort of synergy, is keeping your finger on the pulse, but don't over dilute what you're trying to do. And just keep it simple and trust people that actually you bring in to develop a business strategy and a business plan. Because if it isn't broke, don't try and fix it. And also,
Yeah.
as well, there are 1,000 business models out there that basically have done this kind of stuff before. It works. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the key things, is trust the people and trust the process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting about you talk about the technology side. I was listening to a very good podcast the other day from Dan Sullivan, and he talked about how every generation thinks their technology is like how did businesses operate before this? This technology is completely revolutionary. And then the next technology comes along and that generation thinks, how on earth did these dinosaurs deal with it before? So when you add on all these new technologies, there's always this core set of things around, what people like in terms of culture, the type of growth and culture that people want to experience, how consumers act and decide and behave. And I think the fact that you've come from like a consumer, like a B2C, and then moved into B2B and, all the way through to enterprise accounts, been a founder, being an entrepreneur, you've seen so many of the patterns that turn into, can we build something that people want to buy from us? And can we build a team of people who love it and our customers love and that we can build from? And I guess what would be interesting, I know that because your story, I was looking back through your career, and you've worked for some massive brands and then some startups, and you've been an entrepreneur. So you started at Coca-Cola, Britvic, Just Eat back in 2012, Delivery Hero. Then you're a founder, Builder. You've been a CEO. Give us that. Just give us like for people who don't have the pleasure of understanding who you are already, they've never met you. Tell us a bit about your intrapreneurial and entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I started at Coca-Cola on a degree program, sort of at 18 years old, straight out of college. And, you look back at that individual now and I go, that was a really good time. So I went from being a college student to being in a massive organization, one of the largest brands in the world, and representing that brand within 6 months of getting my A levels. And it was like, oh my God, this is just madness. And I was given a company vehicle. It was a van. It was a great van. I was paid £9,000 a year to basically go and merchandise shelves. But what the best learning ever was about, how to basically talk business. So return on investment when you're selling a case of Coke or whatever it would be. Yeah. And then moved through various different roles. And that's because I had a driven sort of piece in me. And people say to me now, sort of 30 years later, you were always going to be somebody in a leadership role. You were always going to be that person, because your will to win and your drive to be successful and your motivation to basically do it. It wasn't just about the monetary side of things. It was about the personal. I want to be a manager. So I want to be you in 5 years' time. I want to be the manager's manager in 10 years' time. Yeah. And I did it. I did it at Coke, and then I had the opportunity. And I said, there's a few nevers I always said. And the nevers was, right, when I was at Coca-Cola, I said I'd never work for Pepsi or represent Pepsi. And I did. And I went and did that. And I actually said when I was 18 or 19 years old, I go, I'm never going to have any children. I'm just purely focused on whatever. I've got 3 beautiful daughters now, and that's the one of the biggest statements I would regret now. And they're growing up and nurturing into the individuals that we want. And I always said that I wanted to be a millionaire. I wanted to be able to build a business and just go for it, but I didn't know how. And I was never going to do it working for somebody in a large organization. I could have had the security. So when I was at Britvic, for example, a very, very sort of, responsibility and company cars changed every couple of years and pensions and everything else. And I said to my dad once, and I said to him, I go, Dad, I got this opportunity to go to this really small business. It's called Just Eat. And he goes, what the hell do you want to do that for? He says, I'd never heard of this business. He said, you're in a very safe environment. Just, my dad was Mr. Steady. He was an electrician, right? And he built his own business and was steady. And he said, I don't think you should do it. I think just don't go for it. Anyway, 4 weeks later, I accepted the job as sales director at Just Eat. And that then opened up is actually you think that you understand how businesses work when you're working in large corporates. You don't really know how they work. Yeah. And when you go into a startup organization, and I'd say startup because it was quite well established at that point. It was scale up. It was on a journey to IPO at Just Eat at that time. But the DNA of actually understanding the investment, shall we invest in an app? What markets do we want to look at? Do we look at high level brands and all that kind of stuff? But being exposed to that opened up the sort of like, this is great. Now, how can I be a creator? How can I be an entrepreneur? How can I develop an idea? I want to be the next Just Eat. I want to take their business to IPO. I want to see that. I want to change people's lives by just having an idea. Yeah. And that sort of over the time that I left Just Eat and went to support Delivery Hero with the skill sets that I found, they opened up and they invested in a last mile delivery business, and I utilized the investment there. And I didn't know how to secure funding at that point. And I was like, asking for £1,000 off your dad seemed a horrendous thing to do, and asking for a £10 million sort of venture capitalist sort of business fund, that again I was scared to do that, but that's because I didn't understand it. And when you're working with VCs or you're working with high net worth individuals that want to invest in a business, the best thing I ever did was taking a business pitch to do last mile delivery. After my time of Delivery Hero and everything else, I had contracts lined up with major brands like KFC, McDonald's, Nando's. This was all pre-Deliveroo, pre-Uber Eats. And at that point, I took it to a high net worth individual that owned a software house. I needed the software because I can't code. I don't code. I understand technical speak, but I don't code. I needed to build a piece of software that could basically link up a restaurant and its drivers and all the complexities. Now, we all know that. We've got the likes of Uber now with the taxis, and we have Uber Eats, we have Deliveroo. It's normal. It's every day. It's on every smart device across every whole UK. But it was pre all of that. And I sold an idea into him saying, we're going to basically pull a load of drivers in each individual city. We're going to use technology to make it more efficient. And we're going to basically sell that service to big brands. And we're going to be able to deliver high street food or high quality food to homes or offices. And getting that actual piece there was the real key thing for me. And really sort of just when I got that, yes, we're going to invest £250,000 of my own money into that. It was the biggest, most buzz thing I've ever had in my whole life. And it was incredible. And then the journey starts to begin, and then the stress comes in, and then building it. And then when you start seeing the invoices coming in, it was incredible. But again, at one stage I was bigger than Deliveroo at one point, but that was, and then for Deliveroo and Will Shue and the respect that he has, he knew how to get VC money, and he knew how to sort of do that, and he got that trajectory, and now look at him now. So it's, then you move into, and so I thought, right, how can I? So I had to sort of reevaluate at that point, because I had to exit. It was not a failure. I wouldn't say it's a failure. It was a learning. It's like, how do I actually move things across to make sure that I could pick up somebody else's product, because I couldn't think of anything else that I'd like to do. Pick up a product to earn some money from it for me to basically sustain my family life. But really use the intrapreneurial piece that we talked about a couple of days ago, and also on this call now. It's like taking a real great product, a real great service, and moving it through with the experience you've got based on all the experience that I've actually had. And I've seen that sort of numerous times over the last sort of 4 different businesses that I've worked in, where it is somebody else's product, it is somebody else's business. And then I have to win their minds and their confidence in me to take their baby and grow it and take it through and nurture it. So it's like going through the school run. When you take your children to their first day of school, you don't want anybody else taking them to the school. But then as it progresses, you can actually, I trust him. He knows what he's doing. He can move it on. We can do it forward. So, and then over the last 4 or 5 years, working with the senior team at Builder.ai, that was a journey. That was a journey. I think I was about the 200th person in the business, and then it grew to about 3,000 people in 3 years, and it was multinational, and it was just amazing, just absolutely amazing to witness that. And again, another learning for me is that we try to be a champion of everything, when actually we should have focused on 1 or 2 things where we should have been. Acting. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I think I need to write a book on it. But again, it's having the time to write that book on it, because I have got some stories that were very, very interesting through the early stages. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens with the book.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do the framework now, Steve. You see, because I think what's interesting is a lot of people that give advice, particularly on LinkedIn, have never done it. And knowledge has now been democratized, so anyone can just chat GPT something and produce some content and seem like semi-credible, but people can see through that. And you talk about experience. For me, it's wisdom is the big word that AI can never replicate, because it doesn't have the context and the stacked experience, and like you say, the failures. So, and you've been not only an intrapreneur during startups, scale ups, as well as in massive corporates. So you've seen the full life cycle of businesses from, we've got an idea through to with $1 billion of turnover. That's very unique. I guess what I'd love to understand is, if you think, I have a line on my LinkedIn, which is, every entrepreneur needs a team of intrapreneurs around them.
Yeah.
And I know that your LinkedIn headline says, intrapreneur, and you're a walking, talking, living, breathing intrapreneur. Why do you think that entrepreneurs do need intrapreneurs around them?
I think it provides consistency and structure. I think that's the piece. And I think that entrepreneurs are and I've tried to be one, entrepreneurs are so fixated on what the product and the solution that they're trying to solve for the market, in whichever market you are. But and because you're so focused on that, is that tunnel vision there. So it's like, I know what I'm doing, and I know that if I'm going to sell something for £1,000 and I'm going to do this, it's there, and you're obsessed with the detail of it. What from an intrapreneur point of view, to support that entrepreneur, it's about giving that wider angle, going, okay, right, so this is where you're at. Where would you like to get to? And let's work backwards from that. So where's your goal? Do you want to be a £100 million business? Do you want to be a £10 million business? Do you want to float? Do you want to sell this business? Does it want to be a merger and acquisition? And what is the end goal? What do you want to do? And how long do you want to do it for? Right? Because being an entrepreneur, you burn out quickly. You burn out, and I say this with the best possible respect. A lot of self-proclaimed chief executives of businesses in entrepreneurial businesses, they've earned the title by having a great product, but they don't have that wider business sort of sense to go, okay, how can we do this? How can we get another lens on this to move it forward? And how can we do it with maturity and experience to be able to do that? It does take a certain caliber of entrepreneur to recruit a load of intrapreneurs, because naturally you'll go, this is my baby. This is me. I've done this, do it my way. We've got some success. Sometimes you'll meet an entrepreneur and they won't want to release that power of their product, the power of their service. And they won't be open to it as well. They don't want the change. They might not want to invest. They might not have the money to invest. But then it's a case of, right, well, if you don't want to invest yourself, then we might have to dilute. You might have to get people in to actually see the vision and create the vision. And that's where a lot of the chief execs of businesses now that founded a product, built a product, got up to a point, they have their exit, and they're no longer in those businesses post IPO, for example, because they need that continuity of corporate sort of compliance that you have to do when you, from a financial regulation point of view, but also from a as I said earlier on in it, going from a startup to a scale up to a corporate, in terms of, when you're in an entrepreneur sort of stage in a startup, you don't think about the benefits of your employees. You don't think about that. You think about, well, I need some help. I need the expertise. I need that. When you get scale up, and then when you start starting to attract the talent that wants to come and work for you, those intrapreneurs, whether it's in technical, whether it's in design, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in sales or operations, you need that expertise, but you need to be competitive to be able to attract those intrapreneurs to drive it, and now give them ownership and make sure that you trust to do that. And I think that's where I've seen it fail. Recently, and obviously 5-10 years ago, I've seen it fail. But more important, I've seen it succeed, because you have to basically trust the vision and the experience of the people that you're bringing in, and that is not looking at short term as well, because entrepreneurs are short term, right? Yeah. What can we do next? What can we win next? How can we move this on? Intrapreneur is, right, let's have a bit more of a strategy. Let's have a bit more of approach. Let's look at the financial rigor of the business. Where do we want to go to? What's the runway? How do we want to achieve it? And let's slow it down a little bit. And entrepreneurs get bored with strategy and long-term sort of planning, but intrapreneurs actually have been there, got the t-shirt, and want to be able to go through that plan. And it may be that you only have 6 months worth of runway, or you have 6 years. That plan is the same. You just keep it. So if you look at your growth strategy, you look at your efficiency strategy, and you look at your innovation strategy, and make sure you're selling to the right customers, and make sure that you can deliver the product to the right on time and in full. And that makes happy customers, and then happy customers then come back to you or refer you. And that's the simple thing. And that's without even me talking about a specific product. It's exactly the same in every single business.
Yeah, you mentioned the word delivery there, and I think it's a very interesting point, and we should definitely discuss it, which is, a founder often is very, like you say, product obsessed. It's probably their baby. They probably come from a technical background. They've probably experienced firsthand the problem. They maybe haven't been involved in recruiting and training teams, maybe not building the operational processes behind them, maybe then actually the process of delivering a product roadmap and taking customers on that journey with you, and then certainly not the leadership of the team who have to go through that incredibly messy process. And I'm just wondering if there was a story that you could tell about maybe getting that delivery piece, or sort of underappreciating how challenging the delivery piece might be. What comes to mind?
Something so pertinent, Richard. It was, when looking back at it, you go, how the hell did we do that? It was and I'll be really specific with it. And it was when I just started with Builder. The role was a general manager to launch a product in the Builder suite, and launch it in the UK, and then eventually in the US. So we need to create the go-to-market strategy, the playbook. And it was all about, let's get sales in. We need to sell the product. Let's get it sorted. Now you bring salespeople in, they will sell, right? They will sell. and they'll sell the dream. And we were even selling at some point with Builder right in the early days where the product wasn't even ready. It wasn't fit for purpose. So we were selling a dream. We were taking a deposit on a website or an app that they wanted to be able to create. And via 60% of AI was generated, the actual the movable viable product. It was moving that thing. And then you were talking to these clients and they were committing to us. So they were buying into us as a business, but the product wasn't ready. And we were then delaying 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 months. It could have been longer than that, depending on what complexities they wanted on a website or an app that they wanted to buy from us. And we were trying to go into 5 or 6 different sectors. So gyms, restaurants, e-commerce, hairdressers, all the kind of things where you want something online that you can book or buy, health and beauty and everything else like that. We were looking at none of those products were ready. The e-commerce one was about 60 to 80% ready.
Yeah.
So we needed to focus on that, get the go-to-market strategy. And then when you win that first customer, the salesperson's buzzing, going on, getting the next one, absolutely go on the next one. But then you go and talk to the delivery team. You go, okay, how are we going to get that customer live? When are we going to get that customer live? When are we going to deliver on the quality that it is? And are we going to deliver on the quality that was sold? And that failed a Builder in the early stages because we didn't have that product ready and we didn't have key milestones for that customer to be engaged. When you buy something as a customer, you want to be able to pick it off the shelf, or you want it delivered by the next day and it arrives. And if you go back to the time where there was no online delivery, right? You would go to a shop, you'd look at it, if you're buying a new TV or a radio or whatever, you look at it, you go, yeah, that's fine, that's great. Tell me about it. You buy it, you pick it up, and you feel really energized that you bought something. You spend £100, £500, whatever. That's value. I bought into that. I'm really happy with that. When you have a product that's bought online, and you are talking on a video, for example, in a sales call, which is obviously now is the norm, right? People have to buy into you personally, but they have to also then go, right, well, you've just paid £500 for the first £500 of the build for a £4,000 project to build a new app. You're never going to see anything until it goes live.
Yeah.
So you sort of invested into that. So how do you keep that communication with the customer to keep that engagement level to then say, these guys are really good. These guys kept communicating with me. They kept delivering it. They kept doing it, and deliver what you say on time and to the level that you need, the quality. And making sure that continuity is there. And that was one story with Builder where, I remember, and I did direct sales. I was the go-to-market strategy. I was senior in the organization, and I was leading. I recruited the team, and that's obviously when we met, when we were going from sort of 2 or 3 individuals to 20 individuals to basically take a product to market. That's when we'd actually predefined, and I slowed everything down and said, we need just to focus on e-commerce. Let's utilize that. Let's the delivery team. Let's not put a gym in there. Let's not put a hairdressers in there. Let's just slow it down. Focus on e-commerce, and let's not and then also manage expectation internally as well. And go, we're not going to get 400 customers in week 1. We're going to get 4 or 1, or we're going to get none, and manage that within internal communication as well. And if you're delivering a message like to senior management, investors, owners of the business, you go, we're not going to sell anything for the next 6 months. That's quite a tough conversation to have. It's quite a ballsy conversation to have as well, and say, because the business is not ready. We're not ready to supply. Because if we go and launch and sell a product to a customer, that customer, if they had a great experience, would refer. They'd talk to their friends. They'd talk to their network. If they have a bad experience, they wouldn't refer, but they'd also could potentially put reviews on there and create negative press and negative energy. So we had to build that. And I delivered that message and said, we're not ready to go. We need to hold on what we're doing. We've recruited the sales guys. We can train them up. We can get them on the go-to-market strategy. We can talk about the marketing. We can look at ICPs. We can look at where we need to be. Let's get all that done and get the infrastructure of that plan in place from a business development point of view. Let the delivery team catch up. Let the product team catch up. And then we launch. And that's how we did it from 0 to 6 months in the Builder journey for Studio Store. And then from 6 to 12, we did it. An interesting story, which again is on there. Builder was a VC-backed business. And we, after the first sort of 6 months, the Indian market, there was an Indian GM and there was a UK GM. I was the UK GM. And we all came together in an offsite in Goa. right? Fantastic, right? Steve, we're going to this business. Business is paying for us to go to Goa. And we met our colleagues for the first time in person. And there's always an element of competition, GM India, GM UK. And I never give up, and I always want to win. And he had basically had more traction in the marketplace. He'd secured pre-bookings for these. He had about 40 to 50 customers that were ready to go. I had one. And I turned up in Goa with my very small team at the time. And we had right, why is it working in India and why is it working in the UK? And we had these kind of sessions. The fun was there because obviously the competitiveness was on there. But I actually turned around and said to all the senior team in the room, and I remember it vividly, and I just said to them, I'm not prepared to basically put my reputation or take customers through the journey, through sales, or through a go-to-market strategy without substance.
Yeah.
When we've got that substance and we've got that track record and we can deliver a product, that's when we're going to take off. And I said, you may have 50 conversations, 50 customers that are ready to go and have paid a deposit. I said, but when I get this right, I'll be getting 50 per week. I'll be getting 100 per week. And I will accelerate and I will go past you because I'll have confidence in our service, our business as an offering to our customers. And when we say that we'll deliver it in 2 weeks, and when we say that you'll have a back end where you'll be able to see all your app development and everything else, and it's all ready and it's all in sync, that's when we can keep that. And I competitively go. About 4 months later, after another 4 months of development and delivery review and process, and we were ready, I overtook India in terms of the sales performance from the UK base. I was getting that 50 per week. He was getting about 25 per week, because what happened is that those customers that he signed on that 50, on the first 50, and he was winning and he took the accolades, and I was second place out of 2. He was suffering because of bad reviews. He was suffering that his sales team actually lost a bit of confidence in the business.
Sure.
And we didn't have a plan. And that for me was holding back, be prepared to deliver a strong message, but sticking to the strategy and the plan that I know that I've learned over the years, that, let's get our business ready and let's be, and it was one thing I said at Just Eat many, many years ago, right? The big goal is that the platform had about 8,000 restaurants on. We needed to be business ready to have 25,000 restaurants on. And unless we were ready to be able to do that, I wasn't ready to basically put all the effort into sales. It was like, let's put the effort into the sales team, into the go-to-market strategy piece for us to be, but we need to be business ready for 25,000 restaurants. And we're only at 8,000 at that point. And everyone's going, we don't need 25. No, but we need the infrastructure to be able to deliver exactly what we need. Even in those large organizations with large revenue, because that is large revenue.
Yeah.
That the business model, the business process, the actual delivery model, it wasn't fit for purpose. So the bigger you are, the harder you fall, and you need to make sure that you get that infrastructure in place.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes me think that a major benefit of having like an intrapreneur around an entrepreneur is that it's sensible. Is that the word? Or it's like, if we continue to do this, these bad things will happen. It's like, spotting the iceberg. I know that we are headed for trouble because we've seen this before, because I felt this pain, because here's the consequence. And if not, then you're like the tortoise and the hare. It's like, we're just going to go as fast as we possibly can. But then that could kill a business, Like, it's very, and particularly if you're talking, maybe this is a £2 million business, and you lose a few customers, that could be half your revenue, maybe more than that. For a lot of these small businesses, like the whole 80-20 rule, it can kill you. So having someone who comes in, let's say that you were speaking to a founder and they knew that there was like risk in some accounts, or they was trying to launch a product to market, which is why they are prepared to make the investment into like this next level of leadership team. Having someone who can challenge you and call out the blind spots and then be that guide, there's so much value in that. And I think that there's this whole rhetoric around, avoid these mistakes is like the number one type of podcast title that you see and the type of content that you see. But it's like, genuinely, if we go and do these things, continue in the same way, we could literally kill the business. And I just wonder when I'm talking about this, like those sorts of tough conversations that you've had and come through the other side of, what comes to mind when I'm talking about the value of an intrapreneur to an entrepreneur, in terms of like, I'm prepared to challenge and I'm prepared to help guide us to where we're trying to get to, rather than walk into a fiery and painful end?
Yeah, it's a conversation that I've had many times, and that is a case of, okay, great, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mrs. Entrepreneur, you have got to a point where you're done incredibly well. Celebrate success. You've done amazing, right? You've got to 7 figures in terms of revenue, right? You've sold the solution. You've sold it to customers. You've seen that first invoice being paid. Now that's a real monumental thing when you're in entrepreneur, or you've seen your first transaction online. It's hit the bank account.
Yeah.
So you stop. First of all, you stop and pause, and you go, entrepreneur, that's what you've done. Congratulations, well done. Right now, I want to see where we are with the sort of P&Ls, the P&L management. I want to be able to see what people we have on board. I want to see what people that we may potentially need to grow that. We have a skill set analysis, and they are hard conversations, because sometimes when you're in entrepreneurial sort of businesses, you will be more friends than you will be work colleagues, right? And there is a difference between the two, right?
Sure.
When you're buying into a business in the early stages, you'll be working with somebody in operations, or you'll be working with somebody in sales, and you'll be where I'll do the lead, and I'll do the invoicing, I'll do the financing. You need to look at that and go, right, where's your skill sets? I'm not saying that you exit those people out of the business. I'm saying you evaluate where are the skills of those individuals to maximize efficiency in there. You then go, okay, right, where do we want to be? What do we want to get to? What do you want to be in 5 years' time? That's the great interview question that everybody gets asked all the time. Where do you want to be in 5 years? No one knows where we're going to be in the next 5 years. Where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be this time next year? How do you measure success? And I think working with that entrepreneur, and then those seed sort of employees as well, go, how are we going to get there? And then you then look at the model and you go, okay, well, this is how you got to 1 million. Now we're going to go 1 million to 5, right? Or we're going to go 1 million to 3. It might be 1 million to 1.5 million in the next 12 months, right? That might be defined success, because you don't want to you don't want to take those risks. They need to be calculated risks. That's about analyzing, using all the tools that you've got around sort of doing the P&Ls, look at the investment models. How much are we investing on marketing? Is the marketing correct? Have we marketed the right people? Or is our ICP correct in terms of the customers that we want to attain? Are the sectors that we want, are there? Is there a need for the product or service that we're offering? And you utilize all that experience. And as an intrapreneur, it's almost like you're a consultant. You're almost analyzing it and going, right, okay, great job, done a great job. Analyze the people, analyze the product, analyze how you deliver that product or service, and then really make sure that you can then go, okay, well, this is how you've done it. Great. There is an element of success. So let's take that 10, 20% that you've had, and we'll turn that 20% into 50%, into 60%, into 70%. And then what that does is that then creates the plan and how you want to do it. And then you use those strategic pillars of growth, innovation, and efficiency to be able to sort of drive that plan forward. I'm no, again, as a person, I'm no massive strategic, innovative thinker that's going to devise a strategy that's going to have really nice, fancy words in it and stuff like that. It's about keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Because if you keep your strategy simple and you communicate your strategy with transparency, you get the engagement of your 10 employees, your 20 employees, your 50, your 100 employees. As soon as you basically start making it complicated, you will lose 10% every complicated word that you put in there. It's about, right, this is the journey we're going to go on to. This is £1 million that we're at the moment. We want to get to £5 million, and it's a 3-year plan. We're going to do this with 3 strategic pillars, and that's with growth, innovation, and efficiency. And in those, whatever we do as a business, whatever you do as an individual, if it's not driving one of those 3 key pillars, don't do it, right? And it's all linked to that plan. And then if you keep those milestones in, you have the monthly team meetings, or you have your one-to-ones, and you have your development sort of sessions. You keep that communication. How are we doing? And this is how we're doing. We've actually fallen backwards. Right. If we're falling backwards, why did we fall backwards? Well, now what can we do to go forwards? And if you keep that, and the simplicity of communication, the simplicity of people's skill sets and knowledge, I've been fortunate to work in loads of organizations where there are the best marketeers. They're the best product development. They're the best delivery teams. They're the best marketeers. trust their ability to basically analyze something, to be able to do that and bring it together, almost like a project manager. So it's like a project manager intrapreneur saying, we'll get you to this stage, then we're going to reevaluate and we're going to do it again. And I think that's it. And you could talk for hours on it in terms of trying to keep it simple, but that is it. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's so true, isn't it? But, and whether these people in the business even understand the strategy, and certainly not the customers, like everyone's coming on a journey with you. And I know you talked about like hiring people is a skill set and it's a challenge. And it's one of the sort of key things to get right. If people are going to maybe leave a much more secure, solid job that like everyone in their decision-making unit family really loves, and they're going to go and take this bet on you and the vision that you've got, you have to be able to clearly communicate that. Because if you can't, you'll never get anyone. But if you get the expectation wrong and you overpromise and you say, here's where we're going to go, and that stuff doesn't start to come true, those people that you might have attracted are going to churn. It's the same as like signing a customer and then they're going, well, the delivery of this thing isn't coming true. If employees are the same, the expectations that you sold me aren't coming true. I think it's probably the number one reason when I'm speaking to people, and I speak to people, probably 10 people a day, about, why they're looking to take on a new challenge. And I would probably say at least 70% of those conversations is we're in a situation where we can't see a future because, and often it's the leadership isn't like clear. We're not seeing what we need, or the product isn't good. We're losing credibility when we're talking to customers, or the culture's bad and we're just seeing like loads of decisions being made and behaviors been accepted that we just don't want to be around. And often it's if we none, so all of those things are expectation. All of those things are based on if you'd sold the right expectations up front, you can kind of tell people we're in a messy situation. This is going to be really hard to build. So when I'm saying all of that, I guess you've talked about these three pillars, right? Growth, innovation, and efficiency. Maybe we do one by one. And if we talk about growth, like where do people go wrong with growth? And then we'll talk next about what good looks like. But where do people go wrong with growth?
Growth is probably one of the hardest things to achieve within a business, because you might have a product or service that basically could go into 20 different sectors, and it could basically be transposed in as different services, or it could have different sort of connotations, or we can do this. Nobody in sales actually likes to say no, right? No, we don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Nobody does that. Even when you're being interviewed as a sales director or chief revenue officer or whatever it is, have you ever had success? Have you had any failure? No, I've never had any failure. Of course you have, right? So I think that when you're looking at the growth within a business, you have to basically define who you are, what you want to do, who you're going to help, and how you're going to basically be priced in that market. And then those sort of four things underneath there will open up a whole stream of it. So which territories do we want to go into? Is it regional? Is it international? Is it Europe? Is it the US? And again, define that strategy. Does that then link back to, do we have the financial capability to invest into the business to be able to open up a new territory? Or have we got a key trigger point to say, let's get to X amount of revenue in the UK, then we'll look at Europe, then we'll look at Middle East, then we'll look at the US. So that's the ongoing piece. But the growth piece is very simple, right? How are we communicating to our potential customers? How are we even communicating to our potential customers? How do we find those leads? Doing the normal sort of thing around sort of just generating cold emails on LinkedIn and finding your email addresses. Everybody's doing that. Now there's the generation of AI bots that are basically pushing out sales calls that are coming through quite regularly as well. People don't want to be sold something that they don't want. Right? You want to be able to, if you've got a problem, then you want to you'll buy something to get a solution, because it will make your life easier as you go on as a customer. So I think it's just making sure that you understand and look at it from the customer's lens. What are they doing? And then the strategy will go. So if you've solved that problem from a customer lens, it's easy to formulate the strategy to find that out. So if you basically say that we are a business that's basically going to provide you a piece of software that's going to make you more efficient, or your customers are going to be able to read more of your content, and you go, yes, that's my problem. Okay, so then you go, right, well, if that's your problem, we've got a solution. It looks like this. And If it doesn't look like that, we go, well, we haven't got a solution. But what we'll do is we'll go through a discovery phase with you to work out and really understand the pinch points of why you're looking, what is the problem, how can we do that, and then try and adapt technology to provide that solution. And I think, and that's working in the sectors that you're specializing in. Don't dilute it and go into 10, 20 different sectors. Right? Do that when you're a multi-billion business. Yeah. When you go, okay, we'll develop that. We've got innovation. We can do this now. And it's a simple thing, growth, but it's so complex because you just need to find your niche. 0 to 1 million revenue, you'll scattergun. You'll do machine gun selling. You'll find something that sticks. 1 to 5, you've got less bullets, right? You need to basically refine that process and do that and look for the value in the customers. Then it's about getting long-term customers as well, and then recurring sort of income as well to make sure that you keep doing that. And it's about always finding, always seeking in the growth elements to be able to do that. That comes from marketing. It's also making sure that you can grow the business with your delivery, as we've discussed previously. There's no point basically saying we'll build 10 million sort of CMS systems over the next 1 year when we can only build one. There's no point in trying to sell the other remaining sort of X amount of numbers that you need. So it's about understanding that and making sure that you grow as a business, you grow as a unit. So your growth goes, your sales team grow, your marketing team, your ops group, your P&Ls, your finance team, and it's all done with engagement, making sure that everyone's clear and defined of the process that's happening in growth, right? This is what we're trying to achieve. And don't be too, I've seen it when they're builder, don't be too overly ambitious sometimes as well. That's a bit, I think that's the big, hairy, aggressive goal right at the end of the journey. Okay, let's build up to that, right? What would success mean? Is it that 1 to 1.5 million? Is it that 1 to 5? And try and just make sure that you're managing the expectation and managing the business continuity from a business security point of view to make sure that in 6 months' time, we're going to have to close the doors because we went too big too soon. And trust me, I had to close the doors on one of my businesses with some investment because we went too big too soon, got loads of customers. We had to close the doors. And that was the most horrendous time of my career, but probably one of the best learnings I've ever had is growth. Don't worry about the finances.
Yeah.
Worry about the finances, worry about the investment model, worry about the marketing, worry about this, and let's grow steadily and be afraid to challenge each other in that process as well.
What it makes me think of is often if a business is going to hire a senior leader, let's say a chief revenue officer, a chief, someone that's going to actually go and deliver this plan, they've either raised investment and they've said, here is what we're going to achieve with your money. Here's the returns you're going to go and get. Or they go, for this budget we're going to spend on this individual, here's the return that we want from this person. But they don't know the how. And we talked about, this is probably for founders who are going, we are a few million and we want to become, 10 million plus, we want to go from 7 to 8 figures. How do you, as someone coming into a business, when the expectation that has meant that there is the opportunity for you to even join the business aren't based on fact, aren't based on truth, they're not going to be hit, the payoff you can see very clearly won't come true. How can you handle that?
I think I picked up in a couple of words in there that you mentioned. So if you're let's just say you're a salesperson coming into a business, whatever title it is, right? Titles don't matter. You're there as a purpose. You're trying to sell something and grow the business.
Yeah.
And somebody slaps on you a £1 million target for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
10 years ago in my career, I would have said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's no problems at all. In 12 months' time, I would have delivered. I would have over exceeded. Yeah. And we'll all be happy and everything's happy. That was 10 years ago. That was a 10 years ago, Steve. Now it's a case of you look at it and you go, how did you actually define that return on investment model? How did you actually come to those? What did you base that target on, that aspirational target on? Have you broken that down into different areas? What was the minimum you would expect to return? If you're investing £100,000 in my annual wages over the next 12 months, and I deliver £200,000 worth of revenue, and I give you the £100,000 back as well, so that's £300,000. How does that work, right? How does that fit for you that I've actually given you 200% worth of sort of return on investment? Because in any other business that you'd be in, would you be happy with that? If somebody's saying, I'm going to pay you £100,000, and then in 12 months' time, you've got to deliver £1 million worth of revenue, but we don't know how we've come out with that. We've just basically said, yeah, we want to get to 1 million. Where's the plan? Where's the metrics? Let's analyze how we got to that point. And can the business actually deliver £1 million worth of revenue in that delivery side? Can it actually do it from a marketing point of view that you're required to do that? Because you're not just going to get one person coming in and being able to generate £1 million worth of opportunities by cold calling and picking up the phone. It doesn't work unless you're really, really lucky and you've got a huge connection. But the product is bulletproof, right? And the process is bulletproof, and the business that you work for is there. So that metric is about challenging. So if there was any sales professional, whether you're starting out or you're mid to senior or senior to exec, one of my pieces I'd always say is that when they're asking for double-digit growth, what is that double-digit growth? How did you get that? Even in an interview, because an interview should be a test of between you're interviewing the business and they're interviewing you, because there's no point starting on the 1st of July in a business and you've got this huge sort of target on your head straight away, and there's an expectancy straight away. This guy said he was going to do it in his interview. Or actually, we need to get down to the nitty gritty and find out the nuts and bolts of how did you actually come to that? How did you find that? How are we going to do that? What is the definition of it? What success have you had in the last 12 months that actually warranted you to be able to say that's what we need from a growth perspective?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people will fail within the first couple of months. Within the first couple of months, they'll realize that, oh, okay, right, I've had no revenue that I've generated. I've got 10 months left. That means my ratios of 100 grand a month is going to carry on. And if I don't do it in third, it's going to increase. And just trying to just work that through is doing that. And you say, and don't be afraid to challenge, go, I might not deliver anything for the first 6 months because I'm educating myself on the business. I'm educating myself on the process. I'm educating the business on what we need to do to be able to drive that forward. But then we get all that right and we get that go-to-market piece right, the growth will come. And it will come in 6 to 12 months. And we'll have a process in place. We'll have a bulletproof process in place that's not just going to fix your £1 million in 12 months. It might deliver £6 million in 3 years. Now, that's a better ratio than just having £1 million on your head for the first 12 months.
Yeah, I love that. And I think this is what recruitment should be, a business saying, here is where we're trying to go. Here are the challenges we're facing. Here are the things we don't know, like our known unknowns. What experience have you got? And if someone's got experience of filling those gaps and they know the how, then there's a huge value in that person versus someone who says, oh, yes, of course I can do that. Because you're like you say, with all this example, I guess like kind of the theme that's coming across here is if you just say yes and just go for it, you might end up in the same place or worse in a year's time. But if you go and do the right things, then actually 1, 2, 3 year outlook, which is what everyone really cares about, is much more likely with someone with that experience.
Yeah. And I think that, in the job market as it is at the moment, there's probably since COVID, since 2020, 2021, there's probably been a lot of people that have gone, yes, I can do that. But now that's actually affected the whole job market because people are in short-term contracts or they're in full-time employment, but actually they're only working for 6 months, 12 months at a time. And you get to the point where, and there's a consistent churn. And then businesses only stock, I'm going to, and this lovely word of fractional, right? So I'm going to bring somebody in on a short-term project, short-term gain. And it's that because businesses lose faith in the recruitment process as well, because, it didn't happen last time. So it might not happen this time, but we do need somebody.
Yeah.
And that for me is it may be, in the last 5 years, how it works, but you need to invest in the strategy and be as a business owner or VC or entrepreneur, be prepared to be challenged in a nice way on how your business actually operates, and be prepared to invest not the money, invest the time into those people, because there are some hugely experienced, talented people, far more than me within the marketplace, that can drive businesses forward, that can do innovation. And it's and in the right businesses at the right time. It's about talking to those entrepreneurs and saying, you've done a great job. Let's review where you are. Are you going to invest in me in the next 3 years to deliver this plan? Because I've got 30 years worth of experience that is qualified. and I'll be able to drive that through for you.
Yeah, exactly. I literally did a LinkedIn article the other day about how people expect when they hire a go-to-market leader to just hand it over. And it's not, it's the start of an intensive co-building period. And you need to find out that someone doesn't see you as a cost. I think, it's one of the mistakes that businesses make is, particularly if it's their own money, they're like, this is a cost. You're a £100,000 cost to our business. And people want to cut costs, whereas you want to grow investments. And people is your ultimate investment that you'll ever make.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
So let's talk about innovation, the innovation pillar. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, the innovation piece is not coming up with a brand spanking new idea, right? So if you've got a product that you've developed and you've won and you've taken out to market, it's not about changing it and going, oh, we're going to do something else. It's not about that. Innovation is basically, it's almost like evolution, right? It's the evolution of that product. It might be a innovation idea or innovative idea that basically internally you can make your business run more smoothly. It could be that you could refine your process. Now that does start to go into efficiency, right? But it may be that the innovation is that you look at internal processes to basically you look at what's out in the marketplace. So you could look at sort of how, again, when previous businesses that I've worked at, when you're looking through RFP processes at the moment, where it's hugely competitive and it's getting more competitive now with the different sort of legislations that have come through. So if you're pitching for a £500,000 worth of software build, you're probably going to have 200 different businesses that are going to be pitching for it. And then you look at your RFP, and RFPs normally take 4 or 5 days worth of preparation, probably 10 days before that, and looking at the opportunity and sizing it. All of a sudden, you look at the investment, you've probably lost 40 working days in a month from your team just to supply a document to pitch for it, where you've got 1 in 200 chance of winning it. And then AI comes in and you can analyze that. So analyze your business, right? So analyze that, and you can look at those pieces that any AI generates. What is this client looking for? What is it? What are the specifics? That does it to 60, 70%, and it could reduce your efficiencies and your innovation. So that innovation is driving the efficiency for you to reduce the cost and the amount of time that you spend on producing an RFP, which you've only got 1 in a 200 chance of actually winning.
Yeah.
So it's looking at, so it's that innovation, and then it's looking at in the market as well. So this is the best bit about it. So everybody's talking about AI at the moment. Everybody wants AI in their business. But when you go, where can it help you? Businesses start to go, I don't know. Right. And that I don't know is the biggest uncertainty at the moment. And what I've seen in the marketplace in the last 6 to 12 months on AI is that everybody's talking about it. Nobody knows really how it's going to work. People are starting to be educated about it. Don't get me wrong. Right? People are, oh, this can help. We've all got Gemini on our phones now. We've got ChatGPT on our laptops. We know that it's more specific in terms of from a consumer point of view. But how can it help in a business point of view? Right. So how can that innovation help? So I'll give you an example where I was helping a financial company in the last 12 months to streamline their application situations for their. So when you have a pension or you have a mortgage or whatever it will be, there are 1,000 documents that you have to supply. We've all done it. We've all applied for a mortgage or have a pension somewhere. You'll have your bank statements, your national insurance numbers, everything that you need. They're all documents that you need. Now, normally a business would operate as would have an administration function, and that administration function would probably take 45 minutes to an hour to process one applicant. So Steve's applying for a mortgage. It's going to take an hour to basically go through that process, look through all his paperwork, and get it and do it. This business that we were engaging with wanted an AI bot, simple AI bot, and I say simple because it's not, but an AI bot that basically could scan those documents and reduce that time. Not only just to save money, and it's not a replacement of administration roles. It's about freeing up their roles to basically grow their business. So we developed an AI bot, and we looked at it and developed it from scratch. We developed an AI bot and a scanning tool that basically took that 45 minutes. It got the scanning down to those documents with 96% accuracy, down to 9 seconds. And it also could run 9 seconds multiple times, up to 200 applicants per hour. So all of a sudden you're increasing capacity. And we did that. And the innovation link in there is that, from an expert in technical teams that could say, we can actually do this. This is an idea that we can work with. So it's creating a POC. It's then taking that to market. is then testing the market, saying, is there a need for it out there? Or would you like to reduce your administration capacities from 45 minutes to 9 seconds on one application, and then times that by 200 in the same time? What is the opportunity cost or the opportunity revenue that you're going to generate from that? So it's just that one thing, that one idea, and then that spills out and that opens up another avenue for you to go and push down the thing. So you can make a website, you can make an app, you can put AI in place of it, you can take that forward. And everybody can, like I say, is talking about AI, and it'd be boring if I didn't mention it, but actually seeing it work from a business case to doing that with a little bit of innovation. We invested a bit of time, not cash, but we invested time, which does equal cash, in wages to develop that POC, to then take that to market. And then that opens up the financial services sector saying, we're credible, we've got a product, 45 minutes to 9 seconds. You can grow your business a lot quicker. You can literally have administration teams that are verifying, not checking.
Yeah.
And that's the innovation piece.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, applying for a mortgage is an absolute ball ache. Great, a question. So you obviously you must get massive amount of outreach, being revenue leader and a CEO on your LinkedIn title. What's your view on how AI has impacted sales?
I don't think it's polished yet. I think that there is still. I think the best way I can describe it is that if you go back 20 years in my career, I was selling to organizations. I was selling vending machines, Coca-Cola vending machines, and I was selling units. I wasn't selling the service. I wasn't promising that. I wasn't looking at it. If you then turn that back now, I would be such a better vending salesperson than what I would be at that point. I think AI at the moment is Steve 25 years ago in terms of the sales journey. There's still basically, and I was on it. I mistakenly took a call from an AI bot trying to sell me life assurance, I think it was, or something like that. And you can always tell it's an AI call because there's a pause at the beginning of that call, right? There's no human interaction. And then it goes into the script. It responds to you. And you then say, I'm not interested. Well, why? It doesn't go, well, why are you not interested? It goes, oh, okay, I will then take you off the service. So I think there's still a lot to be developed in there. I think that if you could take what's in my head, and I'm not saying I'm the best in the world, but you could take what my head from a sales point of view and a business development point of view, and you had that 30 years worth of experience on how to engage with people, how to talk to people, how to communicate, how to question, how to pre-qualify. What is it actually relevant? Or, do you want to hear what I want to talk to you about? And if it's a no, don't waste your time on it, right? So then, have I got a problem that needs solving? Yes, but it's not the one that you're offering. Then so you don't waste any time. So I think that it needs to develop, but it will develop not over 30 years worth of career. It will develop in probably 3 years, 3 months, and it will get better and better.
Yeah.
But AI is only as powerful as the people that are actually inputting to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing. If I could turn around and say to an AI business that's basically generating X amount of leads and doing business development, I would basically say, I will charge you for every 30 years of experience that I've got. I will charge you X amount because it's quality, what I've got in here. And you can have that over a period of time, and you can have that and we'll train those AI bots. I think that's the opportunity that needs to happen within AI from a sales perspective anyway.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? Because most of the tools that people are using, they're trained on lots and lots of information, which means that you're going to be general and average. They're not specialist. So the more that it can learn your context and be special, then the better it'll be. But if you're just using people that send these AI emails, and I can do interviews with people now and I see them reading from a screen and giving me AI answers, and I'm like, just not. And so you're not even thinking of yourself anymore.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's like you asked me, you sent me a preparation for this thing, and you asked me, so would you want a script or do you want some pointers on there? And I said, this is about ad lib. This is about telling you by my experiences. And sometimes I might be able not to articulate it as better as I want to, but it's human. It's a human response.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as soon as AI get hold of that human response, it's going to be a hell of a lot more efficient and more powerful.
Yeah, exactly. We've only got like a minute or two left, but last point, efficiency. So why is that one of your core pillars?
So if you're looking at a piece of software from an operational point of view, a project management point of view, right? You can afford it, you can do it, you can buy it, but actually that £20,000 annual cost of a piece of software to make your project management piece more efficient what's the opportunity cost of actually doing that? So it's making sure, and this, like I say, this is simple, right? It's looking at your operation. Can we be more efficient? Can we actually, not just saying, can one person do 2 roles or can one person, it's about what tools, what processes, what can we do to make us more efficient, to deliver those 3 pillars of the strategy, which is growth, efficiency, and innovation. Are we efficient? If you're not working on those 3, then there's no point in investing in it. There's no point in doing it, because those 3 pillars will deliver that goal that you want to achieve at the end of it. And the efficiency piece is making sure that you work smarter, you work harder. It might be that you work less time in the week, but actually more harder throughout the 4-day week. That could be another piece of efficiency, which is another topic of conversation that is an absolute minefield about 5 days and 4 days. So there's all that efficiency piece that goes there. But efficiency is probably this simple one, but if you get it right, the impact that you make, you could be halfway on to generating that extra amount of revenue that you are from a new business point of view, which is a risk. You're actually in control of the spend on your operational efficiency to be able to make those saves. And all of a sudden you don't have to win as much, or you can have the infrastructure to win more and invest more of that operational cost because you're more efficient into more marketing, into more growth, into more innovation.
I like it a lot. It feels like, so the innovation piece is like, what's the big idea? The growth is like, how are we going to go and do this? And then efficiently is, can we do this repeatedly, profitably?
Yeah.
If we get those things right, then the world becomes a better place. Steve, if someone wanted to get a hold of you and have a conversation about how to do this whole, like, early millions into the 10 million plus, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Obviously, I'm on the normal platforms. I'm on the LinkedIn, email address, the old school of phone. That might work as well. I can share details, no problems at all. Quite open to next opportunities, next roles, whether it's short-term, just chats. I'm there to be able to help people. And absolutely, I want to earn. I want to, I love to work. I don't like not working. And I believe, and sometimes you challenge yourself on there around your career, and did you do the right things and do things? I did the right things at the right times, and I did it for that reason back then. Would I do it again? Probably not. But hindsight, you haven't got, right? You can't change what's gone on. I've worked in a lot of organizations. I know I could bring value to a business, whether it's on a short term, a longer term piece, or whatever it else is. And that will be asking, like I've done in this, asking very sort of pointed questions. Where do you want to be? How do you want to get there? Let's do it simply. Let's make sure that we're streamlined. I have the experience to be able to do that. But you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact me on my mobile, which is my number's on there on LinkedIn, and also email address as well, which I'm sure we can share later on.
We'll put it in the show notes. Well, Steve, you're an absolute gentleman. Thank you so much for your time.
I've really enjoyed it. This is the first sort of kind of environment I've worked in here, and I have absolutely enjoyed it. So perhaps it's a first road to stardom, and moving into the sort of podcast world.
Yeah, no doubt. Good man. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time. Everyone else, thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this conversation, we've got a newsletter called Growth Magnet on LinkedIn, where we take the best insights from all of these episodes and turn them into bite-sized format for you to enjoy.